Flame on, everybody. That's right. The Fantastic Four are back in the house. Yes, we have all four hosts tonight on the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is number 65 for Tuesday, October 16th. And yeah, it's been a while since I've been on, at least probably about a month or so, 3 weeks. But we also took a week off last week. That was because of me. Sorry about that. But we're getting going here. This is our Game and Experience podcast, and we're going to talk about games, what we've been playing. We talk about our picks plays. But first, let me introduce you to our quartet here. First up, we got Mr. Excitement. He brings the flame. Mr. Human Torch himself, Mr. Gascles Stamos. Gascles, how are you tonight? You're on mute. Get on mute.
No, you caught me completely off guard. I was like, you started winding up into the whole intro, and I'm like, which one of us is he going to throw that one at?
That's right. I got surprises tonight.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Present.
Okay, good. We've got the heart and soul, a rock, if you will. The thing, Mr. DBQ Hams. DBQ, how are you?
It's clobbering time.
That's all right.
I was waiting to see which one, if I had to break out Ben Grimm or if I had to just go off and talk behind the camera for a while to be the Invisible Woman. But that means that there is only one character left here. So
before you throw
hold on a minute. Who are you, Prime?
Hold on. I'm not. Go ahead, I guess, please. I'll tell you in a second.
So before you throw shade, I just want to make sure, because I lost the whole joke. So who was I again?
You're the Human Torch.
Okay, all right.
You're respectable. You're Johnny Storm. Come on.
Long live Chris Evans.
That's right. No more Captain America, but maybe he can become Human Torch again one day. And up next, Swiss. I'm gonna make you wait a little bit here to see, anticipate a little bit. No, we have Mr. Analytics here. He likes to get into things. He's fantastic, if I might say so myself. He's Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Swiss Guard.
What are you guys talking about?
You know.
This isn't a Star Trek reference. He doesn't understand.
That's right.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Going over my head. No, I'm here. I'm good. I appreciate the fact that I believe it's mistaken, but I'll accept the mantle of the leader of the pack for now.
See, Swiss, I thought I was going to get Mr. Fantastic because of all my white in my hair. So
you need the gray on the side, though. So.
Well,
there you go.
See, I have it. It's just covered up. I am the youngest member of E2KG, but I have lots of children, so I'm already going prematurely gray. So
there you go.
You're the youngest member of the games crew. The entertainment crew has guys younger than even you, old man.
That's fair enough.
So of course that makes me the Invisible Woman. Yes, I give myself the Invisible Woman. That's fine. Invisible. I can turn invisible. I can make those little force fields and those little flying disc things. I don't even know how she even does that.
Part of your lower third is invisible.
That's true. But if you do mess with me, though, I will do a little force bubble over your head, so I can knock you out right away. All right, let's get started here. So first up, before we get to what we've been playing this past few weeks or month, when it's regarding me here, we're going to go with the picks plays, and we've changed it up a little bit. Excuse me. Instead of picking, given 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many games for the other hosts to pick, we decided to do kind of like a topic, almost like a topic. What do you call it? Experience that we're all gonna play here, and now we can each play whatever games we wanted, but we had to kind of keep it in this topic or event kind of a thing that we were doing. So Gascles, you're up first. Tell us what you had in store for us this past few weeks.
Yeah, so as Prime mentioned, we elected that with the change in schedule, we were also going to kind of tweak the format a little bit. And so in the past, as you mentioned, with picks plays, we, one co-host would offer up 3 games, and then the other co-host would pick which of those 3 games that co-host would have to play over the next week or 2. Now what we do, it's a little more rigorous. It's a little more, I don't want to say complicated, but it's a little more detailed. In terms of that, we want to kind of establish a theme. It's kind of a homework assignment now that the GX shows will be every other week. So for this first homework assignment, and often it'll probably kind of maybe be tied into the news things going on in the news cycle as well. So when we threw this assignment out, there was a developer interview with the developers, Techland of Dying Light 2, a game which unfortunately was a game that I think deliberately bypassed in, I want to say it was like January of 2015.
May I say it's become invisible?
when that game came out, and it was unfortunate. It was just kind of lost in the mix of the third holiday season or whatever of the big consoles. But I became very interested in this the things that they were saying about Dying Light 2, in that they were putting in a very heavily detailed faction and reputation system. And I thought, that might be a good homework assignment for our first rotation of Pix Plays in the new format. So the assignment was go out and play some games that have faction and reputations systems in them, come back and discuss what you found out, what did you like, what did you not like, what did you pick up on, how do you define a faction and reputation system or subsystem, and what are the things about them that you like and or the things that concern you, and is it a hot button item for you now that you've found them and identified them in various games that you play. So, I don't know, DBQ, did you play any games with faction and reputation systems in them?
Yeah, so I'll start with my classic go-to, I guess, is Destiny, right? And Destiny 2, and as I've listening to you talk about this, one of the things I'm thinking about is not only kind of identifying what makes a faction and a rep system, right? Because everything's got some type of leveling system, but it's different than that. It's about kind of a secondary progression within a game, that it's not simply your character progression or a skill tree. Maybe it is, there's an XP, but there's also a fan system in a sports game or in a racing game, right? But in Destiny, you've got your light levels, and then in the case of both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, you've got a couple different factions that you could pledge to or do bounties for. And in the first game, it was, and I guess I'm thinking about this one because in the first game, the factions seemed to be something that I connected with more, right? I had 3 different characters in the first game. Each of those characters went one faction or the other, right? It was part of the identity of my head canon around those characters, and they pledged to that faction, and they continued to build rep, right? And I know of other players who jump between factions in order to get a certain level to then be able to unlock the weapons or the armor of that faction or the shaders. But then when they got to Destiny 2, at first, factions there were faction rallies, so they only came, it ebbed and flowed. They only came for a week at a time, and the activities were specific that you would do. And then with one of the updates, they added you could do Vanguard factions, right, and do additional things there. But it felt to me, at least, and maybe this is just me, that the same connection to those factions was not there, right? A lot of the Destiny 2 community, as I was listening to podcasts and people talk about it, that they would jump to a faction based on what weapon it would unlock if their faction won, right? So oftentimes it was Dead Orbit because it was black and white and people liked that character, but also a lot of times it came down to was it a sniper or a pulse rifle or a crappy grenade launcher, and nobody was going to pledge to that faction, right? So it became less about kind of the lore around that faction and more about just what it would unlock for you, what it gave you as a perk. And so in Destiny 2, I've kind of disengaged with the faction system because of that, right? That because of the fact that I went from kind of caring about the lore behind that to now it's not as present. And I maybe as it comes back, maybe as now I'm getting multiple characters, that I might kind of lend myself into that a little bit more. But I still find that a faction system, when done well, and I think Destiny 1 was an example of this, is it added not only kind of a tangible reward to your gameplay, but also some depth to how you identified with the character you were playing with. Is that you were shaking your head when I mentioned Destiny at first? Did you? And we had a conversation about this. Did you find the faction system in Destiny 1 or in Destiny 2 engaging Agassicles, or was it something that was kind of an afterthought because you were you came into Destiny 1 a little late, or at least not within kind of the hype around it. How did you find the faction system?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I really didn't get to experience it a lot. It's as typical as my lot in life. So you're in Destiny 1, I just didn't bother with the faction system. I kind of felt like it was some type of, I don't want to call it contamination, but it was some kind of weird kind of side mission, basically. And I really wasn't interested in it because, as you mentioned, I arrived late to the game and I kind of only had time for the core stuff. I did want to try and put time into the faction system in Destiny 2, and unfortunately, when I went to reach for it, they were stubbed, right? They were kind of not there, so I didn't really get an opportunity to experience it. I want to go back to one of the key things you said, and this is kind of what I was hoping we would kind of get out of these experiences was this certain degree of discovery that you find when you hit these topics and realize that maybe there's a slightly different bend to them than you were originally expecting. And one of those things is they're not the same thing, right? There are faction systems and there are reputation systems, and one of them, in my mind, is externalized, and one of those is internalized, right? Your character in a game has a reputation, and that may or may not impact how different factions respond to them. Sometimes it's just a basic metric, right? Your reputation is applied to a scale and determines what equipment's available when you go into a town and shop at a store, or how much reward you get for performing a given mission. In other games, and I could definitely say, in terms of like looking and thinking about the things that I decided that I liked and didn't like, I don't entirely like kind of the GTA faction system where really the only effect, and when I say this is GTA 3 kind of Vice City, which was the last time I touched it. The faction system is just a thing that determines who shoots at you whenever you walk through their neighborhood. So yeah, those are just some of the things I thought about. I'm kind of interested to hear, what else Swiss you found out as you explored faction systems in terms of how did you come away defining a faction or reputation system in that interaction with you as a gamer.
Well, it was interesting that you brought up the reputation versus faction, because I played for this particular play segment. I played BattleTech, got back into that for the PC, which I had picked up shortly after launch and haven't probably touched since May or June. So it's basically almost exactly what you described, in that the world of BattleTech has, ton of lore. There's novels and everything, whole histories. So there's all these groups, factions, the Draconis Combine, the Free Worlds League. You got a whole slew of them. And in the game, they have their own territories, and there are systems within those territories. And as you do, you're a mercenary unit, you're a mercenary lance. So as you do missions, you do them for a particular faction. When you complete them, you get boosts to your reputation for that particular faction. And pretty much what does that mean? It means that you get potentially cheaper goods when you're within that faction's territory. You may get bonuses to the reward money for a particular mission, or you may get penalized if a particular faction doesn't like you and you're in their territory and you're trying to, let's say, hire another mech warrior for your unit. Now, on the one hand, it's basically like you said, it's just all mathematical. This team is purple, that team's red, and because I've done so many missions for Team Purple, they like me a little bit more than Team Red. In fact, I did a set of missions for I don't know, the Matrocracy or some one of the groups, and Then I picked a mission that was against for one of their enemies, and I had to, basically stop that original faction that liked me. So I had to destroy their mechs so that they wouldn't be snooping around their enemy's planet. And it didn't affect anything at all. It was like they didn't realize that I was working for the enemy at that point. So, and from a high perspective, it seems very limited. It seems like a trite kind of add in to make it be like, well, we always talk about this, if you want to allow yourself to be brought into the universe and draw yourself and make your own story, you can do that. You can be like, I don't like those guys. I don't like their system of government. I'm not going to do missions for them, and I'm going to do all that I can to help the other. But the game, I don't think really cares that much. There's the storyline. So there's one faction that's your enemy with the storyline and one kind of that really likes you. But beyond that, it's just a system to get cheaper stuff. However, most of what BattleTech is you do your strategy in the planet, but then you're up on your ship and you're managing your land. So you have monthly fees. You have to pay your mech warriors. You have to make sure that, when your arm gets blown off in the last battle, you need to replace that PPC. And if you don't have a PPC lying around, you got to buy a new one. So all that stuff, and your mechs have monthly maintenance fees. So, hey, yeah, me paying attention to what factions like me and dislike me and where I happen to be in the map at the time actually has an effect on gameplay. Like it's something that I have to consciously think, these people don't like me, because that happened. I was like, I need to get a new mech warrior. I'm like, oh my God, they're so expensive. Oh, I'm in a place that doesn't like me. So the mech warriors have like a huge markup. It's gonna cost me more to hire one. So from my perspective, it can be a trite gameplay mechanic. Like it's kind of a cheat. Like, okay, yeah, it's just scales going up and down. But if you allow it to, you can let it be an immersive factor. It's almost to me like that concept of how real do you want your pistols to behave in a video game. Like if I fire 3 shots and then I reload, in real life I'm ejecting a whole clip and reloading a new clip, right? You're not like reloading 3 bullets into the clip in like 3 seconds. Game doesn't work like that. If I'm playing Destiny 2 and I fire 3 shots and I reload, I have 32 again. But it only it doesn't eject the other remaining 29 shots. So it's that whole concept. Okay, how much do we want to balance reality versus the fact that it's still just a game?
Nice. Yeah. So I played Skyrim, and this is for kind of the faction side. But before I get to that, just as you were talking, I was thinking about games with reputation systems, and I kind of came up with 2 that are kind of similar. Just Cause and Red Faction. So as you play through these games, you have this huge map. Well, maybe Just Cause it's huge. Red Faction is a little bit smaller, but you have these different sections where you kind of have to take over. You have to take over these bases and these little ports and whatnot. And it does help you along the way. So like in Just Cause, you're taking over these sections of the island. And say like the first or second, the first 2, things you're trying to take over, you're pretty much doing it by yourself. But as you keep progressing through it, you actually get help from the local rebels. I guess that's what they're called, guerrillas. And they actually start to help you. Now, I mean, they're not too much of a help because they're just kind of just standing there shooting, and you can like fly around and do all this crazy stuff. But it's something, I guess. It's it gives you a little bit of help, I suppose. And the same thing in Red Faction. They're a little bit better, I guess, in Red Faction because it's kind of the same thing. First couple things you're pretty much by yourself, and then as you progress, you get all these people. They kind of just like kind of bum rush the whole thing. So it's a little bit better in Red Faction, maybe just because it's a little smaller and more confined, the areas, because they're kind of in like these rocky areas, and then they're kind of like surrounded by rocks and all this stuff. So it's kind of cool. But so in that respect, it does kind of pay a little bit more or less to to try to do all this stuff instead of just kind of bullying your way through the storyline, which you could probably do, but it might be a little bit harder, especially as you get nearer to the end of Red Faction. I'm not sure about Just Cause because I don't think I've ever. I think I might have beat one of those, but I know in Just Cause or Red Faction, excuse me, it does get pretty hard near the end, especially if you don't have any help. So, and this is Red Faction Guerrilla, excuse me. This is a third-person one. But then as far as the faction side, I was playing Skyrim. Been playing Skyrim for a while now. So you got the two factions within the game. It's just the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. Stormcloaks kind of like the rebel, I guess the rebel group. Imperials, obviously, they're the Empire, and they have control of pretty much everything. So the one thing that I did, obviously I've played it in like 3 different systems. And the first 2 systems on Xbox 360 and Xbox One, I picked the Imperials. And then when I was playing on the Switch, I finally did play the Stormcloaks, and I played through both factions. But thinking about it now, thinking back on it, it really doesn't do anything though for the story. Like they don't really help you in any way. I mean, you can go in and maybe pick one of the guys or the women as a companion, but like they don't help you like when you're trying to do things like the whole group as a group. They're just, you can only take one at a time basically. So I was just kind of thinking back that was a really wasted opportunity. Like they could have really played off on that. Maybe that happens a little bit more. Hopefully in the next game, whenever that comes out, probably in like 3-4 years, maybe they'll play off that a little bit more. But I just thought it was just kind of a bummer. Like all right, here I picked the Imperials, and it's just that's it. Like it doesn't even give me really any boost on anything. Like I can't get weapons or anything for free or for a discounted price or anything like that. It's just kind of a thing that happens in the game. So I always thought that was kind of weird.
Prime, I'm going to stop you because we just lost our recording.
Oh.
So when Zeus dropped out there, he locked up.
It's live on mine.
Is it live still?
Yeah, it still says live on mine.
So it could be, but
Maybe.
whatever we're getting in the recording here. So if you're watching this, congratulations. But we also record this in OBS, which I believe provides a couple other options for us as well. And it looks like Gasicles' Chrome instance has locked up. So we are going to exit this call. And if you stick around right here on the E2KG network on YouTube, you should be able to see us when we go live here in a few minutes. So we are going to exit and rejoin the call.
Imagine this, excuse us for technical difficulties.
That's right. Well, we'll put up a sign here.
Say beep. You just get the beep.
Pretend it's all part of our faction rally for Fallout 76.
And keeping on our Fantastic Four theme, that dastardly Dr. Doom must have hacked into our system.
So I do want to, when we come back to this, I'm curious where factions are done well, right? I think we're all kind of pointing out kind of some limitations, but I'm curious if we can think of if there's any example where it's additive.
Okay, we'll see you in a few minutes.